These negotiations are ongoing. We know that we're going to get it right instead of get it done fast. We are not going to waive the 3-day rule. We're going to make sure that members of Congress and therefore the public have the time to read what is agreed to. But we're not going to let the arbitrary December 11th deadline stop us from getting this right.
Speaker Paul Ryan saying the House will pass a short-term funding bill to avoid a government shutdown, even if talks have to continue through the weekend. Most of this spending plan is in place, but a new report from the Congressional Budget Office may impact those negotiations. According to the CBO report, taxes, spending, and the deficit all went up during the first 2 months of fiscal 2016. The federal budget deficit was $200 billion, $22 billion more than during the first 2 months of the fiscal year 2015. So what's behind the increase? Let's talk about it by welcoming in Newsmax chief political columnist John Gizzi. He joins us from Newsmax Washington, and also checking in via Skype, the nationally syndicated columnist for CNSnews.com, Terry Jeffrey. And we would remind you that once upon a time, Terry served as the national campaign manager for Pat Buchanan's presidential campaign back when we were all a lot younger. Terry, you have taken those political instincts, and you're the guy who's written the column about the increase. What's behind it?
Well, JD, this is the inexorable growth of our government. What's driving it is Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. And in the Medicaid front in particular, Medicaid has dramatically increased because Obamacare has expanded the eligibility. So as you noted, we have this massive increase in government spending. We're paying more taxes than ever, but we're running a big deficit. And unless Congress takes some serious steps, this is simply going to continue until we go bankrupt.
Well, Congress may need to take some serious steps, but John Gizzi, you spend a lot of time around Washington talking to lawmakers. What's been the reaction you've heard, especially in the Republican conference, with reference to this new CBO report?
Well, there's a lot of I told you so's that I'm hearing. As Terry pointed out, the increases in entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are driving the ballooning of the budget to its gargantuan size. On the other hand, one has to say this, that Obamacare supporters claim that they have increased the number of Americans who are insured or covered for health benefits. Well, guess what? It's because now they're dumped into Medicaid more and more. The rolls are growing. And remember, when people turn 65, they have to register for it. And it just keeps going up and up. If we did not have entitlements, or Paul Ryan's own plan for entitlements were adapted, we wouldn't be having this right now.
And yet, here is the situation yet again. Terry Jeffrey, we heard John just say that a lot of guys on the Hill are saying, I told you so. I'm hearing something else. I'm hearing that the new speaker, Paul Ryan, will abandon what we had in place when I was there, the Hastert rule, passing these things with a majority of the majority. In other words, there's a suspicion he may have to look for Democrat votes to pass this continuing resolution. Is that a legitimate fear, and will Ryan turn out to be on some of these tough votes like his predecessor, John Boehner?
I think it's a legitimate fear, JD, because I believe they're going to go ahead and permit funding of Planned Parenthood. They're going to fully fund Obamacare. Basically, the president has threatened he'll veto it if they do anything he doesn't want them to do. And it sounds like they're going to capitulate. And it's a very sad thing, considering that Paul Ryan a decade ago was the person who was out front more than anybody else in Congress pushing for reform of Social Security with personal retirement accounts. He had great ideas. You don't hear Paul Ryan pushing those ideas as Speaker of the House. He looks like he's about to pull another Boehner-type deal with Obama.
And John Gizzi, you chronicle what these fights mean. Maybe it won't go there. Maybe it's just the calendar and the old saying around the cloakroom that the members are smelling jet fumes to get on planes and go back home for Christmas. But really, if Planned Parenthood gets funded, does Paul Ryan buy himself a whole new raft of grief for Christmas from conscientious conservatives? We'll give you the last word, 30 seconds.
I wish Terry's sister was here. He put me in touch with her some years ago when we were disputing the difference on Latin phrases, and I learned a phrase from her, semper idem, always the same. That's what Paul Ryan will be branded, semper idem, always the same, if he goes down that path. And it's not just the funding of Planned Parenthood, it would be the funding of the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is becoming a cause celeb among Republicans.
Well, on that note, gentlemen, I'll say to you, Merry Christmas, but it looks like the Speaker may be buying himself a whole lot of trouble, and some conservatives may want to send him coal and switches. Gentlemen, you have our thanks, and we will continue with Newsmax Prime right after this.